So does that mean let's get started? Let's get started. Let's get started.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Good morning.
What would I like to do?
Get started.
All right.
Yay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Well, actually, like I said, it's good evening here in Qatar. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm sitting out here, standing on the balcony because Michael's making me do this. I'm about it's about 102 degrees. So, but it's all good. Life is good here. So my name is Phil Valentine. I've been in recovery since December 28th, 1987, working on 36 years of that. Been at CCAR for 24 plus years. And we are here to do some recovery coach performance support, also affectionately known as coaching for coaches. So I introduced myself. I'm going to have the training team say hi. Peacemaker, you're up.
Michael Serrano, a person in long-term recovery. I've been working at CCAR. This Monday, just past Monday, turned 6 years here.
Come on.
Yeah, great. So grateful. So grateful. And I get to work with individuals all over the world. And everybody's just some magical coaches, right? That are going to just be wonderful facilitators at one point, right?
Yes.
I'm going to pass it to Zymar.
Hi, my name is Simar. I'm the participant coordinator. I'm also in recovery for mental health and substance use disorder. I'm glad to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Dominic, you don't have a nickname yet. I got to come up with one for you.
You did already. The Walking Man.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I like that. I like that.
From when you did the podcast with me, you gave me that nickname, The Walking Man.
Okay.
So, hey, everybody. Dominic Galarno. I am the lead facilitator for the CCAR training team, a person in long-term recovery since June of 2010. And I'm grateful to be here. I always love watching Phil's.
So, hey, Nitha, how are you? Where are you?
I'm just down the hall. No, I'm actually down the hall and down one floor from you. But I've chose the air conditioning option. I could go lean that way and I'd have the same view, I think.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So today I want you guys to, whoever wants to, we don't have to go through everybody, but a way to kind of introduce this module. I would like you to introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, where you're currently sitting with your Zoom camera. And I want you to tell me something you are 100% certain about. 100% certain. So I thought about this, and as you probably know, I'm a little warped, right? So I would think I was like, I'm 100% certain that if I stuck my hand in a flame, it would burn. Then I said, no, because I grew up and have read the Bible about Daniel, the book of Daniel, where there's 3 guys that are about to enter the fiery furnace and they don't burn up. So maybe my hand might not burn up. So I'm only like 99.99% sure. I'm not 100% certain. And, I'm really high up here. So if I jumped off this ledge, am I 100% certain I'd hit the ground? No, I've watched too many Avenger movies and superhero movies. So there's a chance that one of those guys could come swooping in and save me, or one of those spaceships I could land right on the wing. No, there's no spaceship there that I can see anyway, but I'm not 100% certain I'd hit the ground. Maybe 99.99%. So the only thing that I could come up with that I'm 100% certain about is that my dog buddy loves me. That's about the only thing I could come up with. So who'd like to say hi? Michael, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Wish I
Yeah.
was where you're at.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So my name is Michael Helsing. I'm a person in long-term recovery since March 17th, 2011. I am in my office in Indiana, Pennsylvania, hometown of Jimmy Stewart, Christmas tree capital of the world. The thing I am 100% certain about would be that nothing is ever so constant as change.
Okay.
I think, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But he said that the only consistent thing in the universe is the 10% of inconsistency that makes everything possible.
Okay.
So change, that's what I'm certain about.
Thank you. Hi, Gretchen.
Rookie move. I just learned how to use Zoom this morning, apparently.
Cool.
I am Gretchen Harrington, and I am the recovery coach coordinator here in Washington County, Maine. It is a balmy 47 degrees. I am 98% certain that winter does not want to let go here in Maine, and it is planting its feet firmly. And I am 100% certain that I was put on this earth to work with people in recovery, to help people.
Thank you. Ichana?
Hello. My name is Kishara Dawkins. You hear me?
Yeah.
I live in Rhode Island and I am a new recovery coach at Rhode Island Cares.
What?
And
I might know somebody that works there.
I'm sure you do. And I am in recovery from substance use and mental health. And I am 100% certain that I too will perish one day.
Oh, that's a good one. Good to meet you, Kishana. Keithy.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is Keithy Lawrence. I'm a director of recovery services in New York City. I'm sitting in my office because I got to work. So one thing I am certain is that all I have is the here and now. All I have is now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Keithy.
You're welcome.
Miss Kelly, it's always a joy to see you.
I know, you're all so
I know.
welcome that I'm here. So I'm Kelly Strada. I'm a certified peer recovery advocate and harm reduction specialist in Rochester, New York, coming to you from my icy cold office at Strong Memorial Hospital. Long-term recovery from IV drug use. And I am 100% sure that the Narcan and intro to harm reduction training I'm doing for the surgeons in my hospital later today is going to be unlike any training that they have ever participated in their medical careers.
And that's a guarantee. Twain?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Twain Bartley. I'm an admin and trainer here at the Rice Training Institute and on Staten Island, New York. One thing I'm 100% sure of is that I don't respond to work emails and work phone calls at 4:01 p.m. every day. That's 100%.
Got you. That's a very clear boundary. Very cool. Anybody else? Something you're 100% certain about. This is where like maybe one or two of you or something like scroll down and they hit that little reactions button and it says raise hand. Like William did. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, or whatever the case may be. It's lovely to see you all. Sorry I was a little bit late. One thing I'm definitely 100% certain about is that I want to continue on my recovery coaching journey with Neith and Khalees in the UK. And I firmly believe, you know, I wish in a lot of ways we had in the UK what you guys have got in the USA. But I do believe that one day we will have, and it's going to make a massive change to supporting people over here. So I 100% believe that.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. Anybody else? Come on, don't be shy. Do I have to call? I just want like 2 or 3 more. Jesse, I've never known you to be shy.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. I was just waiting. I was just waiting to see if anyone else would say mine, because there are certain laws of the universe, right, that are just like, you know, we just know, right? I'm Jesse Heffernan. I'm a recovery coach, Helios Recovery, and I'm in Menasha, Wisconsin right now, and it's 53 degrees. So one thing I can say that's 100% certain, and I think there's been a lot of studies on this, and we've got telescopes that will tell us this through and through, is that Phil Valentine will wear a Hawaiian shirt or an outrageous shirt if given the opportunity.
Even in very conservative Arabic,
yep,
you know, trainings. Yep.
So that's one of those things.
Wow, 100% certain.
If given the chance.
Ah, gotcha. The qualifier. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, Laura.
Hello, Phil and everybody. I am from the great state of Georgia, and I'm sitting here in my office because I have 2 more days to work until I'm off for 2 months. So I'm super excited.
Woo!
I know, right? The first thing I'm doing in my off time is give a speech about recovery here in my Chamber of Commerce. So great. I have a deep aversion to certainty, but if I had to say something, I'm certain that I am making every day of my life post-recovery count. In recovery, you know what I mean. Making it count.
Thank you. Hello, Sharon.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sharon Hanford. I am a resident of Connecticut and visiting Florida for the next couple of days to watch my grandson get graduated, and very excited to be here. I am a person in long-term recovery, and for that, I have not had a substance in my body since February 1st, 1987. And I am 100% certain that my thoughts will create my actions.
Okay, thank you. Tina.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Phil, for first of all, when you first opened up the spirituality and recovery class in Michigan. I'm from Michigan, and that has changed the whole dynamics of my recovery process. I'm 100% certain that spirituality and recovery, and with God being the God of recovery, it changes a person's life. And I just thank you for the opportunity. CCAR has brought something new to spirituality for me, and also for my class. And most of the people tend to really support that program. And thank you so much for starting it out in Michigan.
Oh, thank you. Come on, Michael, what are you 100% certain about?
100% certain that by lunchtime, I will be hungry.
Yeah, well, are you certain that you're going to reach lunchtime?
No, that is not for certain. But yeah, you're right. Dang, so I'm not certain. You just messed my lunch up.
Probably messed your day up a little bit too. What can I say? Well, you never know how much time you really got, right?
Yeah,
Dominic,
true.
Dominic, are you certain? Oh, George is gonna go. He must be certain about something.
I absolutely am. And hey, everybody, I'm George Brott. I am a recovery coach and a recovery coach trainer. And I'm in Macon, Georgia. That means Little Richard, Otis Redding, Allman Brothers Band, and me come from Macon. I just like putting my name in that list.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty darn certain that I'm going to finish this sentence.
That was pretty clever, George. I like that. I'm pretty certain I'm gonna finish this sentence. Good man. Good man. Anybody else? All right, let me ask you a question then. And I'm going inside. So you guys got enough of guitar for now? Because it is hot. And I'm starting to sweat. And I don't want that to ruin my, beautiful shirt.
How hot is it?
How hot is it? It's only like close to 100, so it's not that hot. But actually, my laptop is pretty hot now too, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. And I dragged my chair out here. How did you know you were certain? How did you determine you were certain? And that's for anybody. How do you know when you're certain? I stumped you already. Gretchen, how do you know you were certain?
For me, it's a feeling. I've learned to trust my gut over the years, and I utilize my supports and I have conversations about things, and oftentimes they're with the folks inside my head, and I'm just like, yep, I'm certain I'm going to do that, and we're going to see how this plays out. It's either going to go awesome or it's going to fail, but if it fails, I've proven to myself time and time again that I can get back up and figure it out from there.
Like that. So it's a feeling. Okay, good. How else do people know they're certain? Wayne.
For me, it's something that I practice and I know that I do. So I know I don't answer phone calls after 4 o'clock. So that's putting it into practice and sticking to it.
So do you turn your phone off?
Yes, I do. I turn my phone off. I turn my work phone off. So yeah.
So what if somebody called you hadn't quite turned your phone off, and then somebody called at 4:02? Would you still?
Oh, they won't. No, they don't. They won't get me unless they see me walking through the door. They won't get me. I had one person who came in at 4 o'clock, and I said, "No, I'll see you tomorrow."
Seed of doubt. That's all. Kelly.
I love seeing Gen Z and millennials come into behavioral health and be like, nope, work phone's going off. I'll do that dispo tomorrow. See ya.
Yeah.
Makes me so happy. But I know that I'm certain because my aunt and godmother who passed away is sort of my guide when I'm doing shadow work or when I'm meditating. She's a constant presence in the back of my mind. So usually if I hear a direction in her voice, I know that it's something to follow, and I know that I'm certain. When it's in my voice, I'll kind of question it, because even 8 years in, I'm still are you sure that, but if I hear it in my Aunt Kate's voice, it's okay, yes, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Dominic.
So for me, I would say I listen most to my spirit. So I know things are certain when my spirit tells me that they're actual and factual.
Gotcha. So actual and factual is certain. So we're not talking about certainty today, but we're talking about something that's closely related to certainty, which is trust. Okay. How did you know? How did you trust that it's true, right? So I'm going to ask you to, I've come to believe, and we can debate this a little bit too, but I've come to believe that generally people are wired in one of two ways when they reach adulthood. All the coaches that have been in trainings, all the people that we serve at CCAR that have been employed at CCAR, all the people we touch, and it's this, that people are wired to trust everybody until they give them a reason not to. or people are now wired not to trust anybody until they give them a reason to. So 0 is you don't trust anybody until they give you a reason to. And 10 is you trust everybody until they give you a reason not to. What's your number? 0 to 10, and why? And I know all of you just came up with a number real quick, maybe except for Rita, because Rita likes to ponder these things and goes back and forth and considers them all. But everybody has a number, and I'm curious as to why. Michael.
I would say my number's 5 because I'd like to think that I'm trusting of everyone, but then again, my biases gets in the way, and I sometimes judge a book by its cover before reading the inside pages.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Laura.
5 is also my number because there are some people, I think I tend toward the 10, but there are some energies that I pick up on that say, you know what, don't trust that person. Not yet. That has to be built and earned.
Gotcha. Kim.
For me, my number is a 10. But it's real quick, and I'm paying close attention to those indicators that make me lose trust. But for the most part, everyone gets the benefit of the doubt. And I just trust people until they give me reason not to.
Got it. Thank you. Willem.
I said 5, so I put it in the chat. I think for me, it's fluid. I don't think it's always a 5 or always a 10 or always a 1. But I suppose my experiences shows me that there's very few people I can really trust. And, you know, there's been times when I've been burnt as well, but there's also been times when I've been proved wrong. So, you know, I believe in my gut instincts and, you know, people talking about spirit guides and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm not as trusting as probably I once was, or maybe I should be. But yeah, so I said 5, somewhere in the middle probably for me.
All right. Thank you. Keithy.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I think I'm around maybe a 3 because I think you know trust is something that has to be earned with me. I mean, one thing I kind of took away from my lived experience is that that taught me how to survive. I had to survive when I was living the way I was living back then, and one of the things that you have to have is that radar. And for me, it just has to be earned. But I give people the benefit of the doubt. But trust is something really high on the shelf. That I can really say, okay, I trust this person. I have to kind of get there with you. Kind of a process for me.
Got you. Anybody else? Justin.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I would say probably around a 7. It really depends on the relationship, right? If it's something that's putting my safety or my family's safety on the line, then I'm going to err on the side of caution. But if it's like with the recovery, and I hear this a lot in classes, I have to look at, does it really matter to me if they're being honest with me or not? Because it doesn't, is it going to harm me if somebody's lying to me? No. Is it going to benefit our relationship that much? No. But like, is it just wounding my ego? Or like, I don't need to trust what they're telling me is true. That's their business,
Got you. Thank you. Tina.
To trust someone means to believe in them. And for me, that's something that that causes an inner discernment with a confirmation. To trust someone means a committed process, ongoing for me, because, trust has to be earned. So.
Thank you, Tina.
I'm just like,
yeah.
That's
Gretchen.
where I'm at with it.
Yeah, thank you. Gretchen.
So for me, I can't pick a number. I think for me, it depends on the situation. It depends on whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in my work life, whether it's in my role as a parent, how much I'm going to let somebody in and be trusted. If it's in my personal life, you start at a 0. You're going to earn that stuff. There's going to be tests, there's going to be trials, because I've been burned in my personal life by people who I thought actually had my back, and they didn't have my back at all. If it's in my work life, I turn more towards like Justin. Like if my role as a coach is to get them to trust me. I don't have to trust them because that's not how that relationship has to work. I can trust them. One thing that I've learned is that I can trust people to, if they want the recovery, they're going to show up for it. If they don't, they're not. And that's not my control. I don't have control over that. There's nothing I can do. If it's in my life as a mom, again, you're probably going to start at a -5 because that's like a whole different universe in parenting. You know, I don't trust a lot of parents to parent their children the same way that I parent mine. And therefore, if my kid's with them, I don't trust them to parent my kid when they're with them the same way that I would. And so I'm the parent who's like, no, but they can come over here. They're safe to be in this house, but I don't want you going over there. So it's really situational for me. Trust is it's a tricky thing.
Got you. Thank you. Kelly.
I'm kind of with Keithy. Like I usually like 3, 4. And for me, it's a process of like radical self-care because I have historically given so freely of myself, my body, my time, you know, all of these things that were not even taken from me during active addiction, just like literally throwing it at people. And so for me, like trust and respect are both things that like I keep the jury out on. And that's because I have self-love and I have self-care today. And I am much more able to like safely and holistically decide who deserves access to me at what level. And I kind of do that. I'm in a position where the work that I do that I kind of do that with both my patients, my nonprofit people, and in my personal life. It all kind of is the same scaling process.
Yeah.
But I think the importance of stressing that it is taking care of ourselves and limiting access to ourselves is self-love and is self-care. And for me, it's very easy to like berate myself that like, oh, I'm so standoffish and I'm not trustworthy. It's like, no, it's because I actually value my peace today and my serenity today. And I'm not just like, it's not a free-for-all access to me anymore. And so that's been a very like important personal part of my process.
Okay, thank you. Rita.
Hi, everybody. So now that I've had a little time to ponder this, Phil, because I've been pondering this for about a week.
I know.
Basically, I just want to say is I think I start as a 10, but the part I was struggling with is I don't always stay as a 10. And that's the piece. When somebody breaks that trust, I don't get back to that 10 very easily. So that's the piece that I was pondering underneath. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you think, let's look at we got 2 more, or Zymar, and then we'll go to the next round of questions.
Okay, so if I look for the definition of trust, right? So, and it says it's a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone on something. So I could trust a recovery because that's their path. So in that part, yes, I can trust, but as personally, I'm a mom. I'm agree with Gretchen. I'm a person very overprotective. And it's very hard to trust, you know, your son, something personal. For me, I kind of struggling. But when I look the definition, yes, I can use the trust to trust a person that's in recovery, right? Because we need to believe in them.
Okay, thank you. I like one of the answers that I did her doing this was, I'm a 5. I half trust you and I half don't. Which I thought was like, okay, I half trust you and I half don't. When Sandy and I have always, when we raised our kids, we always trusted our kids until they gave us a reason not to. And out of our kids, one of them ended up me having to say, I no longer trust you. And he said, I know. But he's earned that back. So there's also a process. But when a baby is born, what is a baby's infant trust level? What's the number 0 to 10 and why? Okay, Kelly, you say 10, why?
They have literally no other choice.
That doesn't mean they trust you though.
Well, I mean, are we gonna get into like the biophysiology of the infant brain here, Phil?
I don't know.
I don't know that they have like the biomedical and like physiological ability to know what trust is and then apply it.
Okay.
I think they're just like, there's a boob, that's food. I'm warm or I'm cold.
Yeah.
I got my ass hurts or it's clean.
I hear you. Well, anybody else have any other thoughts? Yeah, Gretchen.
Need to remember to challenge myself to not talk so much. Stretch yourself, right? I think initially, yes. I think they come into this world and they trust the people that they see because they're being cared for and their needs are being met. But the second their needs are not met, they instantly start developing an initial distrust for people over time. I mean, we've seen it in little kids all the time who were abandoned. They weren't provided their basic needs were not met, and they don't trust adults in their life simply because of stuff that happened to them before their brains were even developed enough to recognize that this is what was happening to them. But yet here they are not trusting adults to show up and provide. And I think that's because of, I mean, early trauma for kids. It's a scientifically proven thing. So I absolutely think, yeah, they start trusting you until you, again, give them a reason not to. And adults, we can do that pretty easily.
Yeah, thank you. I like that. George.
Well, it's actually based on neuroscience. We are inherently born with the mechanisms that are necessary to trust. And that's the basis of, for example, polyvagal theory, where our entire nervous system, it's not just the brain, but it's the brain and the body and the connection of all those nerves are designed for us to be in a place where we feel comfort and we seek that out. And it's through relationships that we develop the connections that allow that to occur in an ongoing way. And so as adults, we have this capacity to, Stephen Porges calls it neuroception. It's before perception happens. We get the sense of, yes, I can trust you, or no, I can't. And it actually happens in about 6 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And so we're hardwired to trust and belong.
Yeah. Thank you. Alex, good to see you.
Good to see you, Phil. I don't want to say if it's trust. I think it's what they know. Usually, when your wife is pregnant, you talk to the baby, she talks to the baby, you touch it, you make connections with them. So when they come out, it's familiar, right? Like when my daughter was born, she started crying, right away. And when I got close to her and I started speaking to her, she recognized the voice. So that kind of like quiet her down and everything. I don't think it's like trust right away. I think it's built over time, because obviously it depends on how I treat them as I go, right? One of the beautiful thing is when the baby's born, they put it in the woman's stomach. You see the baby going up her until it finds the breast, and you get to see that beautiful connection that they do with the mother. I think they use their senses, the smell, right? Like they recognize the smell. They recognize voice. And as time goes by, then they start feeling more trustworthy. Like when they hear the voice of the father or the mother, then they start feeling a little bit more secure. That's why they quiet down or something like that. But they also develop mechanism when they're hungry, right? They yell, they start crying, they start doing a lot of other things for you to recognize that they have a need. It depends how you act towards that. That's how they start learning, right? Because sometimes parents will, okay, let me go right away and take care of that baby. And sometimes you can create that sense that now if you overprotect them, now they expect you to carry them every single minute. So, you know, try to balance that out. So there's a lot of things going on when they're a baby. I don't think they can rationalize that, okay, this is the trust, but I think as you build that, it's something that you build over time.
Thank you. Got you. One more, Tina.
Phil, trust is built for a baby is when their needs are met. And when the needs are met, that's where the trust is built in for nurturance and dependency.
Okay.
Sometimes in foster care, when a child needs are not met and they're switched to a home, they're basically put in a situation where if they don't feed them, they'll start taking food and storing it somewhere. So trust is built when a need is met, Phil. And I think that's where it starts with the baby.
Okay. So I know that Symar read a definition about trust, and maybe some of you have even Googled what does it mean. But I'm curious as to what you trust people with. When I asked you your level of trust, what are you trusting people with? Michael.
You know, that whole time I was thinking that, right? It's like, and it's Jesse put that on the thing. He says he got different like orbits of trust. And I looked at it like that, and it's true, because if let's say I walk down the street and somebody pulls over in a car and they could get in, am I going to trust the person? Am I going to get in? I don't know. Do I need a ride at that moment? Do I need to get somewhere at that moment? So it's like, those are things like, do I trust this person to take me to where I need to go? Do I trust that he didn't steal this car? Like, so it's just different things that I got to trust. There's so many things. It's like, and you look at it as a baby, like Zymar says, it like reacting to trust or their instincts. I think they're trusting their instincts. I think that's what I don't know. I think trust is a feeling though, like your gut feeling, right?
So if you got in, so one of the things you mentioned, like trusting when the van pulls over and asks if you want to ride, you would be trusting what? Is that your personal safety?
Yeah, I'm trusting.
And so if
I'm
you
trusting
got
if I'm gonna get hurt.
safety. Oh, there you go. Right. That you're not going to get hurt.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
I gotcha. Thank you, Sharon.
So it's interesting because I've been listening to everybody and my trust fluctuates. So with this question, I will trust anybody with anything that I have that I'm not ashamed to put on social media.
Wow. Well, that's pretty specific. There you go. But that could cover a lot of stuff too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That's insightful. I like that. I haven't heard that. Thank you. Dominic.
It's funny because Justin just put something about trust the process. So I believe that trust is a process, right? Like it's earned and it's learned. And just because there's the absence of trust doesn't mean that I don't distrust something or distrust somebody or like take a, look at them any different or feel any different way about them. But I feel like trust is like one of those things to me that's inherently sacred because we do learn it from a child, right? So like as a child, like I learned, some things I think experience shows us, like I trust this chair. When I sat down, I knew the chair would hold me. I didn't think I was going to fall down on the floor. Like we inherently learn to trust things, right? But like, I think when you're talking about human connection and that kind of trust, I think it really depends on the individual and the experience of the life of that individual.
Okay, but so, yes, but that's not the question.
Okay.
The question is, what are you trusting this individual with? Or what are you trusting them not to do?
I guess you could trust somebody with your heart if you're in a relationship.
Okay, so I trust you with my heart. Here's my heart. What am I trusting you to do or not do?
Could be a number of different things: loyalty, respect, love, compassion. I mean, it could be a
Okay,
laundry
so you're
list of
trusting
things.
they're going to do that. But if you're 100%, so what happens when that trust is broken? What do you experience?
Pain.
Thank you. You're trusting that you're not going to get hurt in that case emotionally, right? You're trusting people not to hurt you emotionally.
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Alex.
There's things that I trust clearly. Like I trust the sun's gonna come out tomorrow. I trust certain things that are logically, I don't even think about it and I trust it. But when it comes to people, that's something that you know, it takes time. If we're gonna talk about the recovery and the recovery coach relationship, you know, I gotta go with open eyes, because if I put all that trust, what I'm not tied into it is the outcome, but I'm open to whatever happens in that situation, because I know I don't have control of that. But it's just my trust is just creating a collaboration, just trusting whatever comes out of it, because it could be, you know, it's not up to me, it's not up to the person. I'm still going to trust them even if they fail. Oh, I feel that maybe they fail, but because I cannot trust that outcome, or I can control what's gonna happen. But I gotta go in with open eyes, just like I go and I get up in the morning and I look outside and I know either the sun or a star or whatever is gonna be out there. And that's how I go into some of these relationships, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Yeah, thank you. Right, Willem.
Yeah, just listening to it, it's a really interesting conversation actually, and it's like, you know, for me, I think trust is one of the things you can lose in a heartbeat from somebody else, and it can take a really, really long time to rebuild it. And I always think of the image, you know, if you got a plate and smashed it on the floor and then got some super glue and tried to stick it back together, it's going to look like a plate again, but it's never going to be quite the same. So I think it's such a delicate, precious thing. And maybe that's why it's such a big topic, because we're really thinking about, you know, what is this thing, trust? Do I earn it? Do I automatically have it? I mean, I agree. I think you've got to earn trust. And like, you know, I mean, I've come on here today. I'm the man with the funny accent. I'm fully aware of that. You know, I'm kind of trusting you lot not to take the mick out of me, but so far it's going okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I do, and I think for me, going back way to the first question, you know, the reason I trust in recovery coaching is because I've experienced it, I've witnessed it. So it's that evidence of, you know, so I've got personal experience, some other instincts, and then seeing it play out in other people's lives as well. But like I said, that's delicate, and you know, it could take one thing for that to be broken. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, thanks. You're not the only one with funny accents. I mean, we got George here from down south, and Neetha and I think Kalish showed up too. So they, you know, we're all in this together. Wayne.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I can answer this question correctly. While you guys are talking, for myself personally, I do a tester and to see what the person's going to do with that information. Like I will tell you something, like I heard someone mention that it's going to hurt me if you say it, but I'm testing you. So if I tell you that, oh, I did a blue painting last night, I could tell that to anybody, but I want to see what you're doing with that information. What would you do if I tell you that I did a blue painting? So I'm like testing the waters. Are you going to hurt me or are you going to keep my secret? But that's something that I'm telling you that I can stand to hear other persons say, but I'm testing the waters to see if you're really going to keep my secret or you're going to tell somebody else.
So trust for you is like the ability to keep a secret.
Yes.
So as soon as you reveal a secret, it's no longer a secret, right? To somebody else.
True.
And Don Coyas, check this out when he said this blew me away. He said the spiritual nature of a secret is to make itself known. I was like, whoa. So just think about that for a little while. It kind of makes my head still hurt. Kelly.
I also love that quote.
Yeah.
Something that Willem said about the idea of like, it could be this fragile thing that breaks and you put it back together and it's going to look like what it used to, but you're still going to know. And it just makes me think of the Japanese technique called kintsugi, which is where you repair the pottery with gold.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you color the seams where it's been put back together. And that makes me wonder, like, should we highlight when trust has been broken and respect that it is something that can be put back together? And I guess to me that is kind of why it's transactional, because it's something that can be repaired or repackaged and represented in the spirit of me getting something in return, like trust or respect back. But I like the idea of like shining a light on things that are broken, because in reality, that's the whole essence of what we're doing here anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Love that analogy too. Kishana.
Just listening to everybody, I think for me, trust is kind of like a dangerous weapon. I believe we should take that approach when we're handing it out universally. I mean, I would like to trust each person to be exactly who they are by their action. Because I feel like people can say anything with words, but when I see my observation of you and how you carry yourself and how you move, I'm gonna trust you in that sense and take my action from what I see or what I'm experiencing from that person. Because again, to me, trust is like a dangerous weapon. So who do you want to hand that over to? You know, so I want to give people their own platform to be who they are, and I build my trust off what I see. If you're a liar, then I trust that you're gonna lie. If you're gonna be a snake or a dog, I'm gonna trust that you're gonna bite. So that's just how I'm looking at trust, because it is a very difficult and sensitive matter at the same time.
Yeah. Neetha, how'd you know I was going to call on you next anyway? You're still muted though.
I can feel your ESP from the hotel room. Just what was just said about the Japanese art of putting things back together with the gold. It just really made me think about mine and Khalees's relationship. And when we put the pieces back together and it got glued with that gold, it is something more beautiful than it was before. You know?
Yeah.
The trust, I don't hesitate about leaving her with free reign to everything I own these days. I trust her with my, I mean, she probably, that was not about what I said in my head just then. I was about to say I trust her at home with my husband alone, and I know that sounds really weird, but you know, just running that household and being there, and there is never a hesitation about my handbag, access to credit cards, all that stuff that used to be concerns.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, it is just more beautiful than I ever dreamed it could be.
So there's a thing about you trust people not to hurt you materially, take your things materially, but it's also that the pain that somebody would steal from you as well, that hurts emotionally as well. So yeah.
There was a time I feared that I wouldn't have access to my grandson. You know, there was a time I feared, and that would break my heart emotionally. You know, there was a time I feared that she would hurt my mom. You know, there was just, and now none of that, all of that has evaporated away. And she's my best friend.
It's kind of interesting that I like the way you phrased the opposite of trust is fear. And so I've always thought of fear and faith. So trust and faith are very, very closely related. So thank you for that, Neetha. Keithy.
Yeah, just wanted to add, thanks, Phil. You kind of touched on it just a second ago. When I think about it, as we talk more about it, I think about vulnerability. People
Yeah.
don't like to give too much of the vulnerability up. So when you talk about trust, which kind of goes parallel with that, it's a process to that. People might trust a little, then they might trust a lot, but there's some vulnerability there that creates the fear that nobody wants to be left vulnerable, trusting someone that, that may or may not, hurt them in a way that they don't want to experience some more, based on
Yeah.
some experiential, history,
Sure.
whatever. But I think it kind of boils down to vulnerability.
Yeah. So far to recap, I've kind of cataloged that we trust people with our emotions,
Mhm.
with our material things, with our secrets. But mostly what I think we trust people with our emotion, maybe even our physical safety sometimes too, right? So let me ask you a question. Are you trustworthy? And it's a yes, no, maybe, conditionally, and why? Willem?
You know what? I think I am trustworthy today.
Okay.
10 years ago, definitely not. But you know what? I value in particular my family and my loved ones. People that I spend time with. So I would pride myself on being trustworthy, not just with people's sort of, money and stuff, but how I treat people. I pride myself on treating people with respect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think legally, yeah, definitely. But I think even deeper than that with people's, it concerns me how other people feel. I don't want to leave people feeling neglected or hurt or anything like that. So I'm going to say, yeah, I think I am trustworthy.
Great. Thank you. Sharon?
So this is a real hard one because if somebody is in danger, but they're trusting me with their stuff, right? Like if they're harming themselves to release that pressure inside, and that's how they're coping, but they aren't suicidal, right? It's that delicate balance. Like, okay, I know what you're doing, but if you go too deep or if you hit too hard, you may harm yourself. And, I don't want that. And I want to help you. So there's that angle, but then there's also that cash register trust. And, when I'm in somebody else's home, or when I am around somebody's pocketbook or somebody's purse, I don't, it's like, it's not mine, I don't touch it. It's like that golden rule. If you open it, close it. If it's not yours, don't touch it. But then there's that other one where that other layer of, you're telling me a secret and I want to get you the help. You're asking for help, but you're not saying I need help. So it's layered and complicated depending on the situation and depending on my relationship with the person. If it's professional, I have a duty to report. If it's private and I'm not on that work clock or wearing that hat, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Jesse?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the trustworthiness of am I trustworthy is subjective and based on like the values of who I'm with. Like if I think of my work with the recovery and I hope that I'm trustworthy, and I love that part in the RCA that I emphasize when we talk about what is a coach. It's conveying a valued person from where they are to where they want to be. So if I come in with that idea, like they're the valued person, right? But if there's like a conflict in values, right? And I think of like the ethics piece of like, what's like, if I have information and it conflicts with what I believe is the best for the whole group, but this other person believes the other thing, like what I do with that information could and has, right, taken down trust, right? And so like there's this thing of like the communication and I think the being able to sometimes have to live with my values aren't always the shared values. And you know, and to an extreme example, like I'm probably not very trustworthy to people like actively dealing substances. They probably wouldn't want to share that information with me, right? Because I care about my community and don't want that there.
Yeah.
So again, like the values piece is subjective in all of this. And again, applying those like utilitarian universalist concepts to it, I think is really helpful. And I have to take responsibility for my side if there is distrust in the situation and what I need to do to live with that or repair that.
Gotcha. Jamie, we haven't heard from you.
Hi. I feel like the whole reason we become a recovery coach is for them to trust us. You have that sense of trust. So in a way, you know, they're telling us, you know, their deepest, darkest secrets, reconnect and everything like that. So in a way, even if they do tell us stuff, they're looking for us for help, you know, even if it's like not something they want us to share, but in a way they're asking for help, and we build that trust and that bond. So I feel like we are trustworthy because, you know, if they're telling us something's wrong, in a way they do want help. So, you know, we're helping them in, you know, any way possible to get better. So yeah.
Really agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin.
I'll try to be really quick, but thinking about when you asked us what our number is, I think it goes back to basing it on my personal experiences and my level of trustworthiness being also non-linear, because more trustworthy younger than half my life, certainly not trustworthy, and then becoming, as a gift of recovery, trustworthy, but knowing I'm human and that might not be the case tomorrow or forever, and also recognizing that people that experienced that in my relationships when I was untrustworthy, then formed that trust again, or had grace for me towards me and gave me that trust back. So I have to remember not to shut people off completely, and let them have that same opportunity.
Thank you, Justin. One more, we'll talk, Alex.
Yeah, you asked if I'm trustworthy.
I did.
In my head, I think I'm trustworthy, but I don't know if my recovery thinks that until I earn that. I think it's a process, right? And the art of coaching is, how do I make it flawlessly where that person feels comfortable enough to talk to me? And I think as time passes, I get to see how much trust they earn on me by the stuff that they telling me. You know, when they start telling me some deep stuff of what they're going through in life, then I start saying, wow, especially when they share things that has to deal with emotional stuff, which I'm not a therapist, but I need to acknowledge that they feel comfortable enough to even share that with me, right? And that's when I say, wow, thank you that you trust me with that, because not everybody's just gonna go and just tell you the life story right away, and because they don't know you. You know, they want to assume that you're trustworthy, but I think it's time is what develops that. And how I manage myself with my own personal views, my own bias, my emotions. I think that's what makes the difference. Do I do that perfectly? Probably not. Never, right? But I always ask the question, right? How can I support you? How can I always be of service of you? And I think that's the only thing I try to do my best, right? Be available, own it when I make the mistake, and say, hey, listen, you know, sorry, maybe I didn't understand clearly, or even, listen, I don't know. I really don't know, but can we figure it out together? You know, can we work together and collaborate? But I think I got to earn that.
Great. So how many of you have ever had a significant relationship or in a significant relationship? and I'll get to you, Laura, after I share my little piece here, is so Sandy and I, we trust each other, and for the most part, I would say I'm trustworthy not to hurt her feelings, except when I get angry. So sometimes, so then I question, how trustworthy am I? Can I be even trustworthy not to try to hurt her feelings when I'm angry? And I've done a much better job in the later years, but that wasn't always the case. So sometimes our own personal, when somebody holds us in trust, our own personal emotions and situation erodes our trustworthiness, is one way to put it. Laura.
I love that. Yeah, my partner's really great at that. I never heard or felt if there was anger, it never came out of her mouth, because she's just really good at that. And I'm not. I get angry too. I say things I don't mean. But okay, so what I originally was going to say is, it's really a question, because it's like, for me, even talking about the art that we were talking about earlier, it's like the glue is the trust, or the whatever the binding agent or bonding agent is the trust, right? That holds those pieces together. And if we don't have that, all the pieces become just pieces again and not part of a whole anymore. And I know that, to use the analogy, I stopped trusting myself, long time ago. And it took me a while to build back even the trust with myself, that I could live into my life of recovery. And, I was able to put, those pieces back together, because I developed the glue, I made my own glue, which was that trust.
Yeah, thank you. So that's and you guys have done a wonderful job of tying this in, several of you, to the coaching. Any other thoughts about the role of trust in a recovery coach relationship? Willem?
So I feel like I'm talking loads today, but I think the whole coaching relationship sort of is built around trust. Certainly from the recovery to us. But I can go on my own experience. If I didn't trust someone, I'm not going to spend time with and open up to them. So I think, like other people have said, it takes time to build that trust. But I don't believe you're going to have effective coaching relationship with someone unless they trust you. And that might be a 3, it might be a 10, it might be a 1, but it might be a 9. But I think you're hoping over various sessions that their trust in you would grow, and then hence that relationship's going to get better and better as you go on.
All right, thanks. Gretchen.
So I'm gonna throw a wrench in, because that's what Denise Black has taught me to do in my.
All right, Denise, there you go.
So yes, trust is really important in the coaching relationship, but I don't think it's not the whole thing, right? For me, in order to get trust, you got to have honesty. And so when I show up to coach somebody, I'm honest about the fact that I'm still human and that I will still make mistakes, but that I will own those mistakes when they're made, that we can have a conversation about it, that I'm going to set clear boundaries with them, and I'm going to hold them accountable for their recovery. And I expect them to do the same for me. And I set that standard right out of the gate. And I'm like, look, my name is Gretchen. I'm somebody in long-term recovery. I don't have my stuff all together all the time. I come in like a hot mess all the time, right? I'm a walking dumpster fire, I tell people. But what I do know is that you can't do anything without support. And what I do know is that if I make a mistake, I'm going to be truthful with you. I'm going to be honest with you about it. And I invite you to do the same with me. And I think that right there, breaking that wall down, because they're used to dealing with the Department of Health and Human Services and doctors and lawyers and all of these uber professional people. And I come in and one of the first 3 or 4 words out of my mouth is probably the F word. And they're like, holy shit, this fucking person is human. Like, I don't have to be uptight. I don't have to be guarded. I can be honest and I can tell them when I've made a mistake, and I don't need to be terrified that I'm going to lose my kids or that they're going to send me to jail. And I think the honesty and the upfrontness and telling them how I want to see this relationship go, and asking them, how do you want it to go? I think that is what gets me the trust, and then we can build from there.
Thank you. Love that. Tina.
Phil, for me, is with my recovery coach, recovery is trusting the process. Sometimes we don't know how things are going to turn out. However, but there's a role that we have to play as recovery coaches to have integrity, be kind, show love, and compassion. And love will make some people change their behavior. And maybe the fact that you can execute and be committed to that process. So for me, it's trusting the process with my recovery, and they usually disclose and walk with them through that process as well. And don't abandon them or, reject them, and let them see that life is okay where if it's not okay.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Willem talked about about being effective. Is it possible to be an effective coach without trust? Some people are just saying no.
Are you asking like as far as the recovery trusting us, or our trust towards them, towards everybody?
I would say, well, if the recovery doesn't trust you, could you still be effective?
My answer would be no.
Why?
What connections can you build? You really can't build connections like that.
Okay. Gretchen.
Just like, I like challenging. I don't know why. I don't think you can be as effective. I look at the bulk of what I do is providing resources to people. I don't need them to trust me for me to be able to provide them with a resource that is going to get them to a place where they may be able to trust somebody else. It doesn't necessarily, maybe all they can trust me to do is get them resources, but that doesn't mean that they need to disclose anything to me. And that's one of the things that I let people know. You don't have to tell me a single thing about your history or your past in order for me to help provide you with the things that you need. Now, that being said, I have never had anybody not trust me following those statements. So it's always grown from there. But I think, no, you're not. It may not be the relationship that I want it to be, but it's not about me. It's about what they want and what they need when they show up. Maybe they don't need to trust me. Maybe they just need a resource, and they just need somebody to be like, hey, today's Tuesday and I need fuel assistance. I need some help with that. Where can I go? Awesome. Here you go. Here's the number. Do you want to talk about your recovery at all? No, I'm good. I just needed some resources. Okay. That's cool.
Okay. All right. That's good. Sharon.
So I think with this, I have to trust myself with the recovery. I have to trust what I know and what I don't know. And how I can ask for help myself.
Yeah, great. How do you build trust? Dominic.
So for me, it's about being a man of my word. I don't say things that I don't plan on doing. I don't tell them about resources that I didn't vet myself. And I think authenticity is very important too. I'm authentic. I'm the same person I am here, same person I am at home. I am who I am, and just being authentic with people sometimes is more effective. Like, that's why I really like what Gretchen had shared before about, you know, she was being authentic, and like, I'm an authentic coach, man. Like, I am who I am, and in the most loving way, I'm going to support you. But, you know, the trust is like one of those things, man. Like, they might trust me just a little bit, but all you really need is a little bit to build a connection. All you really need is that seed, and it'll grow itself. If it's supposed to be, it'll be. Right.
Yeah, I love that, Dominic. Hey, did you ever consider applying for at CCAR?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, great. You'd be a great candidate.
I appreciate it. You gave me a job one time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Michael, how are you?
Good. Yeah. And I'm going to echo what Dominic said, you know, being authentic, being a truth teller, honesty builds integrity. Don't ask people to do what you want to do yourself. And you can even be honest about it. You know, this has worked for other people. It didn't quite work for me, but you could give it a shot. Right. I try to be as consistent as I can be and be as honest as I can be. I don't have to spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out what to say if I'm just saying it true from the heart and what I believe.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Michael. Jamie.
Hi. So basically actively listening to them and showing your vulnerability, what you've been through, sharing, and you know, having compassion for them and showing that you understand and like build that connection. So that's how I feel. You know, if you show that you're not perfect yourself and, you know, make them feel better, you know, like they're human too. So that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Dominic, did you raise your hand again? Or was that from before?
No, Phil, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just checking on. I was just reading some of the thing. Any other thoughts about how to build trust? How have you seen what works?
I think it's about being sort of, like people said, authenticity, being congruent, being consistent, being someone you can rely on. You know, I like what, I can't see her name now, the lady said about, you know, being a bit vulnerable and sharing bits of yourself, because, you know, my experience is people are more likely to open up and trust you. I'm not saying you have to give them your life story, but little bits of identification in particular around the feelings and stuff like that can be really helpful.
Yeah. So when you consider everything we've talked about over the last hour or so, is trust a choice for you? Yet, why or why not? Is trust a choice, or is it just something that happens? Michael.
I think it is a choice, right? When I was a kid, I used to go to people's houses, and if I was hanging with somebody, I would tell the person, wait right here. And then I would go upstairs to the other person that I'm visiting right quick to come down. I would never bring anybody to anybody's house. And it was a simple fact. Sharon was talking about it. It's like, if something goes missing, then I'm gonna feel like I'm responsible for it, and then nobody's gonna trust me. So it was like, that was important to me, right? So I made that choice of be like, yo, stay right here and I'll be right back. And I chose to put my trust in myself at that moment, right? Because if I didn't trust myself, and I'd have been like, whatever, like bringing a person in, the next thing you know, something's missing, then that person is not going to trust me. So, and then they choose not to let me in the house. So I think it is a choice, right? So like, I choose not to trust you anymore. You're not ever coming in my house. I don't care if it was the other person that did it. I don't trust you. So I think it is kind of a choice.
Okay, well, I heard you just mentioned it and a few others have mentioned it. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What the heck does it mean to trust yourself? Trust yourself to do what or not do what? What are you talking about? I didn't trust myself.
Trust yourself to do the right thing.
So you could trust yourself to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, I can trust myself.
Oh,
to
then
do
you
the
trust
wrong
yourself
thing.
no matter what.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what you're talking about.
You just messed my day up, man. You messed my lunch up first, and now my whole day with this whole trust thing.
I did. I mean, I think Laura talked about it too. I didn't trust myself to do what or not do what. So anyway,
yeah.
Tina, is trust a choice? And do you want to jump in on what does trust myself mean or not mean?
It's a different type of choice. It's an emotional choice.
Is it?
So that's the reason why when you say, do I trust myself? It's an emotional choice. And like I get on the airplane, I don't like flying, but I have to trust the pilot to fly this airplane, Phil. But I don't know how his flight went last night. He might have drunk some wine or I don't know, maybe had a bad
He
fight.
could have pulled a Denzel Washington and he'd be high as a kite and saved the whole plane.
So I got to trust God to get on this airplane to cover this pilot so I can make it to my next assignment. So it's an emotional choice, Phil.
All right. It's an emotional choice. I like that. Is trust a choice? Why or why not? And what do you mean by trusting yourself? Anybody else? Come on, fill up the silence a little bit. Raise your hand. Be brave. Jamie?
Hi. So I think trust is a choice. And what Michael was saying, like about not trusting yourself, sometimes, through life, when we do bad things in our addiction, we don't trust ourselves. So it's like so we have to hold ourselves accountable. Like taking that accountability. You know what I mean? That's what the way I see it. It like trusting yourself is a process. Because you hurt yourself and sometimes we don't believe in ourselves. So regaining that trust. And then we use that, for other people as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Sharon?
So I think that trust and choices are different. And it's how I it's how I feel after the choice.
Yes.
Right. And that then kind of for me makes it like, well, that wasn't really a good choice. And now I'm second guessing that choice.
That bit rings so true to me because I can think about all those times like I swore that I wasn't going to do cocaine again. And then I got cocaine. And that was not a thing about not trusting myself. I trusted myself that I would rationalize my way out of why I made that choice. I trusted I'm going to work myself out of this jackpot somehow. So I don't know. That's just an interesting spin. I hadn't thought about that. Dominic.
I was gonna say something similar, but I'll change around. So, for me, I think it has a lot to do with trusting myself, has a lot to do with my spiritual condition and like and how I'm walking in my recovery, because I do trust myself today, but in active addiction, I'll tell you what, I couldn't trust myself to do anything right. Like,
but did you want to do anything right?
Well, I used against my will. I believe in the disease of addiction is just that, right? So for me, I used against my will. And in my literature, it talks a lot about that. And I feel that even when I told myself, you're not getting high tomorrow, I'd wake up and the first thing I did was like, I was just getting high.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Bunny, haven't heard from you yet.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to stretch backward.
But I still, the conversation was just so great, and I didn't want to miss anything. You know how you don't want to miss anything thinking about what you're going to say, right? So, but it was so compelling, everything everybody said. But Dominic just beat me to what I was going to say. The spiritual component of it all for me is the most powerful, because if you look in this photo here, I went down to where I ended up laying in the bushes and sleeping in the bushes right here. Behind you is a picture, behind me is a picture of that place. And it was more covered up than, of course, I don't know, storms, or they went down and cleaned it up and pruned it or whatever, but it was a lot of foliage, and so it was covered up and it was darkness in there almost, But I don't want to spend too much time, but I will say that I got to a point in there where and me being a college graduate, ending up in the bushes, and then a drunk guy stumbling in, and I'm mad because he's in my spot, right? And I start cursing him and calling him a bum, a drunk bum. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me in the next millisecond that I'm a drunk bum. I'm laying in the bushes, right? And I started crying, and I started crying, sobbing, saying, God, help me.
Yeah.
Help me. That's all I could say. I didn't have anything specific. Nothing. Just God help me.
Bunny, you and I said the exact same prayer.
Yeah, man. And it was the most, and while it seemed like it was just the end of something, it was really, I don't know, the end of my life, or I don't know how. I just say, how did I get here? How did I get here?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he pulled me out of the bushes and I walked out of there, and angels were singing or anything like that. It took me a couple of weeks later, I got arrested again, because as soon as I walked out of here down the street, it's all kinds of stuff happening right, in the next block. And I got right back in the mix again. But the angels came, and the Montgomery County Police uniforms, right? I didn't know they were coming. They had guns on their hips, and that put me in recovery path. So I'm saying, so it's a process, and I know that who we're working with are people coming from those kind of environments where they don't trust anybody, right? So we can't expect them to be trustworthy, or not even trust anybody else, but trustworthy. I know that I was not trustworthy, just being in that environment. So I need to build trust, and that's based on my daily spiritual conditioning with my higher power. I trust my higher power based on what happened in those bushes, the aftermath of it. So, and it's a process. It didn't happen overnight, but over time. So does trust. And so does that's what I come to do, build trust with a person. That's my number one goal. And that's my number one goal every day when I hit my knees and ask my higher power that I be trustworthy, myself, as modeling it for my recoveries. I need to model it first. I need to show them and be there every day when they need to help them. The question again was, Michael said, you asked, how do you build trust? And, and I think the main thing was being trustworthy, but then also, that part about just, even though they don't trust us, I'm still needing to with my higher power, develop some trust with them, to ask them. And I'll say myself personally, pray for myself, but also pray for them, to develop some kind of trust, right? And just me, and the thing about what somebody else, and Dominic beat me to it, or someone else did, just me telling them what to do next, even though I know they don't trust me, or just to ask them what it is that they want to do, is a trust building step in itself, even though they don't trust you. You know what I mean? You have to, start and be there, and then, but like, you can tell them something and or help them find something, the next step, and then later I'll find that like my sponsor, when I came in, we didn't have recovery coaches when I came in. That was over 25 years ago, right? So things he told me then, I didn't trust him, but in retrospect, after some time, I saw where, he was right, or he was helping me. And that's what helped me build trust in other people as I went along, in retrospect, from what they did first, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if I explained that the best, but anyway.
That's all right. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Gretchen.
I mean, I think for me, I've always trusted myself. I trusted myself to screw up. I trusted myself to get high. I mean, I showed up like a boss. I went big. I went home. I did everything that I told myself I was going to do. And I did it to the best of my ability. What I've never, or what's taken me over 30 years to figure out, is how to feel worthy of what I've got. It's worthiness. That's something that I never had. And I think that that is entirely different from trust. I've had sobriety for a really long time. Have I felt worthy of that sobriety? It's taken me a long time to feel worthy of it. It hasn't been until really the last 5 years that I've felt worthy of having the family that I have, or the income that I have, or the vehicle that I have. Because to me, I always still felt like that broken, 18-year-old girl that was getting high all the time, that was being told all of these things by all of these people. And so, I always trusted myself.
Yeah.
I was the biggest truster of myself. I never felt worthy of anything.
Wow. Thank you for that. Nitha.
Bunny, thank you so much for what you said, because my brain was just going about 900 miles an hour, and it was like, analytical is an 8 out of 10, and I kind of went, there are times when I have really needed to trust, and I couldn't find that trust within myself or with anybody else. And when I made the effort, which at times was a struggle, to have the space for that conscious contact with God and just say, please show me the way, trust. Often that trust was, what I got was the trust in myself to make the right decision in that moment for that situation. And I don't know if all that makes sense, but I think finding trust in myself often means I have to step away from everything else to trust in my higher power to give me the awareness to trust the decision that I make, even if it's uncomfortable.
Right. Back in 2010, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of the tongue. And I met these doctors and I immediately trusted them. I literally put my life in their hands, right? Sandy was not as trusting. She had to do all her research. She had to do all the stuff, figure out what was going to happen, all of this. And I just literally put my life in the hands of these doctors and in God. I felt it was the right place to be, and just tried to cope through it one day at a time, right? One moment at a time. I wasn't worried. I wasn't living in fear. And then there was one time where a well-meaning friend came to the foot of my bed, and I was like halfway through all this intense chemo and radiation. And she said, well, have you thought about this new European, technique about doing natural earth? And I'm like, no. And she said, and I said it kind of like, I was a little irritated. I said, I've put my trust here. I don't need anyone to erode that trust, And so well-meaning people often offer alternatives to a path that you're pretty certain on or trusting. And I think as recovery coaches, we have to be careful that we're not, it's an art, right? Of being careful of the trust we've built, even in under well-meaning intentions, right? That we start to question a pathway that the recovery thinks is working for them. And who are we to erode that trust? Unless, of course, your art is calling you to that. So I'm just talking myself into a circle here. But anyway, trust is vital in all relationships. Time is up. And I think Neetha and I are really hungry because it's 6:30 at night. So we're probably going to go to the Souk Waqif. Thank you guys. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Love you all.